Well, welcome everybody to OC3. Really excited to get this started, and there's a lot of really great talks along the way that we will be highlighting so that you can't miss them. I myself am Sal Kimmich. I work at the Confidential Computing Consortium. As a sub-foundation of the Linux Foundation, we work to bring companies, individuals, institutions, and organizations all together in order to work on hard problems around confidential computing. These are some of our biggest membership, and these are many more that we work with. This is just to show you that we're working to build a big ecosystem all around this confidential computing. We are working to engage those who are building the technologies or working with the technologies, all under the umbrella of protecting data in use by performing computation in a hardware-based, attested, trusted execution environment. And in today's quick little keynote, I'm going to cover a few exciting things about what's going on in the state of confidential computing and at OC3, some of the key challenges that we're overcoming in the field, and some ways to really stay at the forefront of confidential computing as this field really starts to take off. So I'd like to jump in with just a couple of examples of how you're going to see confidential computing being really well used in the lineup that you'll see today. So there's going to be a really great real world example of over a year's worth of using confidential compute for financial services. This example will show you a real example of services and a blueprint that shows you how to be using confidential computing for compute at scale in a regulated space. You'll also learn about where it's being implemented in things like medical spaces. I think these examples are really interesting, and you're going to get to see a talk about how an entire clinic has moved to confidential compute on the cloud and how this is unlocking the ways that they can now do research. Make sure to check out this case study. Another incredible example that we're going to see today is how we are leveraging the ability to protect and isolate really sensitive data and ensure that in this trusted, hardware-attested and trusted space, that we know that we can protect the rights of the individuals as we are using the data that helps us to protect other individuals. This example of using confidential computing to prevent modern trafficking is a great example of where there's sort of emerging spaces where we're seeing value that we could not ever have been able to help in spaces where it was regulated for very good reason before. But confidential computing makes this a real possibility. And lastly, but very much not least, we're seeing an explosion of the ability to use confidential compute for AI, right? So I want to bring your attention to this talk where we're looking at using AI as inference. And I think this talk is going to be very important because it's very forward-looking. It's showing us a roadmap for how to move forward while making it a very real look at some of the things that are easy and the things that are still currently hard to do. And we need to be able to figure that out as we move forward. If you have your attention on that space, I'd love to bring some of that attention to one of the open source projects at the Confidential Computing Consortium. So this is SPDM-RS, a Rust implementation that really makes it easy to get these protocols set up for GPUs and accelerates their performance. So make sure to go check out that project if this is something that you are interested in and trying to build more resources around. So let's dive into really where is the current state of technology and what are the challenges that we're trying to face right now so that we can really unlock the value of this. The first is making sure that we get remote attestation right. We have to build these systems in a way that ensures that we are ensuring that we know what is being on the system before it is started, right? Ensure that the system software and hardware configurations meet the security standards necessary before we engage in the computation. That has to be systematically regulated and systematically set up. Secondarily, On the technology side, we're really getting into an interesting space. We are focusing on standardizing security with a more standardized ABI behind this. We want to make this both secure by design and interoperable by design, so that we make sure that the very base, the very root of all of this is something that we can rely on and all build from. And as we look ahead, I think we've seen a huge amount of progress. There were massive strides in confidential computing, as we've seen a lot of industries and sectors recognizing the potential from this, because it's both about privacy and security. We see confidential computing in financial services, we see it in medicine, we see it in GPU utilization of sensitive data, which is incredible to see, and we even see it in the prevention of human trafficking. The demand is rapidly growing as use cases just like these are showing what confidential computing can do when we make this kind of architecture a top priority. So if you are working in this space, if you are giving a talk on one of these stages, or if you are watching and listening to these talks because you really care about this topic as it moves forward, there's a couple of ways that you can really meaningfully get involved. And the Confidential Computing Consortium is meant to really help and support with that engagement. We offer special interest groups as something from the Linux Foundation's organizational approach. This means that it is entirely open to anyone to engage with. If you have an interest in a topic along confidential computing, and I'll show you some good options for this, you can join in, and you can even look at the recordings if you just want to get soaked in an understanding and knowledge of some of these topics. If you are someone who is sitting in the regulation space, if you're an auditor, if you're anywhere in the government and regulation and compliance space, I would strongly encourage you to stop by or look into the resources that we are building from the CCC's Governance, Risk, and Compliance SIG. In that space, we are making sure that we're building patterns that we can communicate to regulators that are reaching out for RFIs, making sure that the language is clear. And we're also reaching out broadly to the community to make sure that there is a shared understanding of what we are trying to communicate. If you are a researcher in confidential computing, particularly, or if you're a developer, a maintainer in this space, you can get a lot more of the interesting information on the work that we're doing in the attestation SIG. I would strongly recommend that. Anyone that's passionate can join, learn, and get more resources, and I'll explain a few more that I think would interest you. We, as a Linux Foundation, mean to support and bring excellent projects to the forefront of confidential computing. And there's a lot of ways that you can engage in this space. So we welcome open source projects to consider joining the Confidential Computing Consortium. We also are really curious about helping to engage with and support project adoption. Reach out to us and we can help you get engaged along the way. We also welcome ecosystem contributions. We really want to put out good information, education to make sure that all stakeholders and all potential stakeholders understand the value of what we're building. And if you're an individual contributor, you are welcome to join in one of our open source projects, and we are offering a CCC mentorship program through the Linux Foundation. So to break it down, some of the challenges that we're working on, I think in confidential computing broadly, but definitely at the consortium, are technical complexity and integration. We need to detail what's involved in integrating TEEs with integrating infrastructure, and there is an increasing demand for technical expertise as there is a greater variation of these technologies in this domain. We need and do focus on the interoperability and standards. As we build out that technology, we have to build up the regulatory communication that supports these, but particularly important in privacy-enhancing technologies. And lastly, most broadly, awareness and understanding. Confidential computing and privacy-enhancing technologies at large are a relatively new field. It takes exposure and understanding and seeing the success of what this can do and making a difference with what we do in this work that really stands out to me. And there's a couple of really good ways to get involved. If you're curious about the work that we do and you want to benefit from it, there's a couple of ways to consider getting engaged. We have our SIGs, which offer open meeting times, which you can join on a video link. Also consider joining into the meeting recordings, into our notes, into our mailing lists. These are just a few examples if you go to ccc/community or /SIGs. Another great example, probably the best way to get involved at first, particularly as a technical contributor, is to look at our mailing lists and find a technical subject which you really want to get to a base understanding of. If you go into those mailing threads, you are going to be able to see, understand, and ask questions around these topics with all of the experts that are engaging in our consortium. And lastly, if you want to help to get the word out on confidential computing, whether you want to do a webinar or whether you want to do particularly a demo, I would love for you to consider reaching out to our outreach committee. We have a couple subsections of this committee which are great to get support from. We have a whole group and team dedicated to helping with confidential computing technical demos. If you want to see more great demos, come get involved and we will help to share the word. So as I wrap it all up quickly, I think these are the challenges that the field is facing broadly. We're going to see a couple of great talks today that are going to show you examples of how we are working on these problems, and we are showing incredible use cases for it as well. And with that, I want to say simply from everyone at the Confidential Computing Consortium that we hope you enjoy OC3. Thank you so much.